Welcome back to another episode of Around the World. This is episode 13 as we continue to move along this NBA season. We had a busy week in terms of off-the-court news, a little bit of on-court news as well that we will get into. But overall, I would say a pretty simple, pretty dull week in the NBA, just your usual week. Starting first, as always, with the community question, which we'll talk about something that happened this week, which was Westbrook hitting 200 triple-doubles. We'll talk about that again a little bit later in the episode. And the community question for today is, do you believe Jokic will pass Westbrook in all-time triple-doubles? I believe Jokic is at 136, if I'm not mistaken. Westbrook is at exactly 200. He very likely could end up with, say, 204, 205, a couple games here and there where he may be able to put up a triple-double, but Jokic certainly looks like he could do it, and I think Jokic, when he hangs them up, I think he will be the number one leader in triple-doubles all time. So that is a community question for today. Now, we roll into the video, which once again does not have a topic because we're still a little bit too early in the season for me to really make true rankings, gradings, award predictions, that type of stuff. You could do the early award predictions. I think I'm going to do that over the course of the next coming week as we get into December and we really start to see those averages and those positions in the conferences take shape. So let's get right into the recap, starting first on a positive note for a team that has struggled most of the year, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. They get a nice win. They also would go on to beat the Bulls later in this week. 2 wins. They're now 6-9 on the season, which I know obviously isn't amazing, but it's certainly better than where they were. They move up to, like I said, 6-9. So now, they go on a 2-game win streak, and you're looking at them immediately being back into the 5 seed in this Eastern Conference because the conference has struggled so much. And I wonder if this is this must be a bug. I'm saying the Heat are 6-7. Have they really played that many less games than everybody else? I'm assuming that's got to be wrong, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, the Bucks are at 11, tied with teams like the Pacers, Hornets, Nets right now. Few wins here and there, which is definitely possible considering their in-season tournament group. I believe they play the Pistons either tonight or next Tuesday. They definitely can move their way up the conference. And if they beat the Pistons, they can move up, 5 slots in a single day. So great week for the Bucks. It's exciting to see. Giannis is going absolutely ridiculous. He has had some unbelievable performances in the last few weeks. Obviously, the 59-point performance, a couple 40-point games, if I'm not mistaken, outside of that as well, or close to it, like 38, 39-point games. He looks so dominant. He looks so efficient. It's just really, really fun to watch. And this is the Giannis that I miss, and I really do hope he can stay healthy because it has been basically since the championship, we have not gotten a fully healthy season of Giannis. We had the injury before the playoffs last year. We had the injury during the playoffs 2 years before that. So, it's been a long road since that championship, and I really love to see Giannis playing at this MVP level, and I'm definitely hoping that he can stay healthy because I want to see Giannis in a playoff series with this Bucks team because I think they can be good despite their struggles. That was it for anything that happened pre-in-season tournament. Now let's go ahead and get into that in-season tournament recap. We'll talk about all 6 games that happened on Tuesday. Well, maybe not talk about all of them, but here are all the winners. Celtics, Cavs, we will definitely get into in a moment here. That was the biggest game of the night. Nets, Hornets, the Nets win. Nuggets, Grizzlies, the Nuggets win. Mavericks absolutely demolish the Pelicans. Spurs get a surprise win over the Thunder, and the Lakers beat the Jazz. So, 2 main things to talk about outside of Westbrook getting his 200th career triple-double. Congrats to Russ. First one is Cavs-Celtics. That game absolutely lived up to the hype. It looked like it was going to be a little dull after those first couple quarters. Celtics really dominated the first half. They were shooting like 60% from 3 for, I think, the entire first half. It was like 18 for 25. It was just like, oh my God, this team in every big game always shows up and gets it done. And the Cavs chipped away in that third quarter, early fourth quarter, and moved their way back into this game and really made it close. And the main takeaway that I got from it was the Cavs absolutely are legit, and they have absolutely no reason to hang their head. This was, and I talked about this with a few people on Twitter, this was a game that the Cavs, it felt like to me, as a fan watching, did not play good. And there are stats that I can have to back that up. And the Celtics played great, or maybe not perfect, but definitely good. And the Cavs were right in this game on the road in an in-season tournament game. Garland was 3 for 19, 3 for 21, something absolutely ridiculous. Just an awful game. Mitchell missed some shots that he definitely could have hit, although he did also have a pretty good game. I think he had 30. And there was just so much more to it. They still have Max Strus gone. Like, this Cavs team is going to be better than what we've seen. And they put up a real fight with the Celtics team that shot over 50% from three on 40 attempts. I think they shot something like 21 for 40 on threes. And you have a close game. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. That's a pretty ridiculous performance from the Cavs to even have that game close. So I would say for them, absolutely legit. As for the Celtics side, there's a little bit to be worried about, but you're still just feeling confident, man. You go out there, you play a team that hasn't lost all season long. And you just, I mean, outside of, the final 12 minutes of the game, and even then, they kind of pulled away in the end. The score at 117-120, the game was, I'd say, over in the last minute and 30 seconds. I think the Celtics were up like 9 with like 2 minutes to go, and the Cavs just kind of pulled it back a little bit. And for the Celtics, you go away from that feeling, I think, happy as well. Cavs, you're happy for a different reason. It's like, okay, we know we can compete with them. We don't have anything to fear anymore. Like, we know we can do this. For the Celtics, it's a little bit worrying, but at the same time, you're like, dude, we just went out there against a team that hasn't lost all year, and for 3 quarters of the game or 2.5 quarters of the game, dominated them. This game wasn't close. I was pretty close to turning the game off before the Cavs went on that run that they did in the third quarter. So, the Celtics team can be dominant. They absolutely can take over games. They have no reason to be scared of the Cavs, and I'm really, really hoping we get a rematch between these two teams in the playoffs like we saw last year, because this looks more like what I want to see. I'm happy we have 2 juggernauts out east, and the Celtics are great, but I'm happy that they have some competition where, although I think I'm still going to pick them to go to the finals kind of no matter what happens throughout this regular season, they finally have someone that it's like, man, I feel like we could get a Game 6, Game 7 big playoff game that we didn't get for those Celtics last year. Other game of the night that I wanted to talk about was the Spurs Thunder. The Thunder take a loss. I didn't watch this game, just to be completely frank with you. I didn't have eyes on it, but just box score watching. I didn't know Wemby was not there. That's why I was very surprised by the win for the Spurs. No Wemby, and the Spurs get it done. Shea still had 30. It wasn't like Shea had an awful game. I think J-Dub also had like 20-something. It was by no means an awful game from the Thunder where it's just like, Shea's 5 for 19 and J-Dub's 4 for 13. It's just like, well, what can we do? Then this was just a good game from the Spurs, and the Spurs have had a couple impressive wins. They're moving their way up the Western Conference. Let me double check exactly where they are. Well, let me clarify. They're not there rankings-wise in the West, but the record, absolutely, they're 8-8 right now. They're a 500. They're a half a game behind the Kings, the Wolves, and the Mavericks right now. Half a game behind those 3 teams. That is quite impressive for this Spurs team. They made a leap that I kind of was expecting. I just wasn't expecting them to be this close. When you talk about the Western Conference last year, there was a clear gap, right? It was like those bottom guys, and then like Houston and Golden State in the play-in. That from 11 on, it was all close. I figured the gap this year was going to be Jazz, Blazers at the bottom. Ignore the Pelicans for now because they're injured. I can't really talk about them being bad. It's not really their fault. But Jazz, Blazers, I expected kind of to be below. And then I had like Houston, San Antonio, Sacramento even, Golden State, which I didn't expect to be this good. They were kind of the floaters at 12-8 that it's like, okay, here's where we get some close records. And then from like 7 up, I was like, this is where I'm solid. These guys are going to be better than these teams, who are going to be better than these teams. And the Spurs are right in the group that I didn't really expect them to be. I thought they were going to be closer to that Blazers Jazz group than they were going to be to that Kings, Warriors, Mavericks. I didn't have the Mavericks there, but the Mavericks are there right now. That play-in group, that late play-in group. So very, very impressive start for them. I'm not sure why Wemby's out. I think, did he also, I have to look. I don't think he played last night either, so I might have missed an injury to Wemby, which that is just straight up on me. Now we get into the story that I want to talk about most in this video, and is probably going to be the title of this video. The Sixers. You already know what I'm going to get into with this. First off, Paul George hurts that knee again. He's out for, I believe, until Monday, or he'll be reevaluated on Monday, so he's going to miss 2 games. So the Sixers will be without Paul George and without Tyrese Maxey till at least the start of next week, which just obviously Sucks for a team that's already, 2-12? Let's double check exactly what it is. Yep, 2-12, below the Wizards and the Raptors currently in the Eastern Conference. Luckily for them, they are in the East, so if they do get hot and, go on a 5-6 game win streak, well, wouldn't you know it, they're right back in the mix for some of those play-in spots. But they're absolutely in free fall. Losses that should not be happening. They lost to the Grizzlies the other night. Just shouldn't happen. And then you have the story that gets leaked. And that's the main thing I want to talk about here. So a team meeting happens, which regularly happens. I'm a Wolves fan who we'll get into later. We have had team meetings. I wouldn't be surprised if we had one today or last night after that loss to the Raptors. And the Sixers had one. And usually it's just there was a players-only meeting that was held. And that's that. But Shams Charania somehow gets a hold of this, that Maxey called out Joel Embiid for being late. Not in a rude way. Not in a rude way. And let me preface this by saying that the bigger story is that the fact that this got leaked. It's not Tyrese Maxey saying this. Maxey essentially challenged Embiid, saying, I respect you, and because I respect you, seeing you late for everything, not showing up on time, not giving full effort, it impacts the locker room. It impacts other people. Think about seeing what it would motivate, how it would motivate you if you saw your boss at work or your teacher being lazy. How is that going to make you be a better student, be a better worker, if you're watching the person that's supposed to be above you be lazy? And I think that's the point that Maxey was trying to get across there. It was reported as well by Shams that this was essentially the elephant in the room. Somebody was waiting for someone to call out Joel Embiid on this, and it finally happened. So that's at least a benefit to it. But the bigger part is definitely it getting leaked. Embiid was pissed about it. Here's a big quote from him from The Athletic. According to the team and league sources, or not a quote from him, sorry, a quote about him from The Athletic, Maxey highlighted the need for Embiid to set a better example. The message, in essence, was that everything within their program starts with him and that he simply must be better when it comes to his leadership. Embiid, league, and team sources say, heard the message while also expressing a lack of clarity and occasional frustration about how he's being used on the court. So essentially, Joel Embiid is saying, I'm late, I'm kind of lazy, I'm kind of being a little meh right now because I don't feel like I'm being used properly, or I don't feel like I'm playing the way I want to play. Any sort of thing like that. That is essentially what Embiid says. And then you have Paul George just not being able to read the room at all. Let me look up this exact title of the video. Paul George gets real on the players only meeting leak. Are you kidding me? You go onto your podcast the day after a major news story like that with your team to go talk about it? At that point, just ignore it. Just talk about the season and leave it at that. And once again with Paul George, this is a thing we've seen for the last couple of years, which has just been frustrating. It's been a lot of blame game, a lot of excuses. And some really, really ugly quotes. You have the Clippers quote of calling them a B team. And then now, this quote was just annoying to me personally. And talked to other people about it, and they were kind of like, well, I don't think it was really that bad of a quote. I understand what he was trying to say. And I also understand what he's trying to say. But I still hate the sound of it. And that is the quote that there's no reason that we've all been inconsistent. There's no reason that Jared McCain should be our most consistent player. For me, fair enough. Obviously, Jared McCain being the number one player, I don't think is a good thing. I think, it's good for him, great for his development, great rookie season, but he's playing better than Embiid and Maxey and Paul George, all that sort of stuff. Although injured, it's not a good look. But for me, that quote is just so damaging. To sit there and say, no, Jared McCain, you've been phenomenal, you've been consistent, you've been great, but you shouldn't be. And maybe I'm reading too much into it. And that's kind of what my friends were saying when I was talking about it. I was like, I feel like that's just a horrible thing to say in the locker room. Like I said to you, Jared McCain, you're not as good as us. You're not as good as us. You should not be playing as good as us. And simultaneously moving the blame off of saying we need to be more consistent. That starts with you, man. You're the one who's playing right now. Embiid has been on and off hurt. Maxey has been hurt. Before he got hurt, you were the one playing, and you were the one not playing well, averaging 14 points on the year, 30-something% from the field. So you can't sit there and go, we need to be more consistent, talk about that. No, you need to be more consistent. The current fault of the Sixers, and what it has been for years, and with their other teams as well, is just the blame game. The media has to play the blame game. The team has to play the blame game. And it started out with Ben Simmons years ago. Ben Simmons, of course, should have taken that shot. I think we all know it. Against the Atlanta Hawks, I remember where I was when I saw that exact play. There's no reason Ben Simmons shouldn't have taken that shot. But then to blame Ben Simmons entirely, yes, he did not have a great postseason. He has not been the same player since. But to take zero accountability since then. And then it's just been all sorts of blame game with Tobias Harris, sometimes even going after Embiid. And now Embiid's pissed off because he's won an MVP for the city, hasn't led him to big playoff success, but he's had some big moments for this team. And it's just frustrating as a fan to just please have some accountability. Please, because it is really frustrating me. And it pisses me off as a guy I want to see Maxey, Embiid, Paul George. I have a Paul George jersey in my closet. I want to see him succeed. And it's just frustrating to watch him, instead of being a veteran presence, him and Embiid being veteran presence, they just seem to have a lack of accountability, and it really frustrates me. I'll leave it at that. Wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about the Sixers more later in the year, because there certainly seems to be a pattern going on here throughout this season. On to Thursday, which was last night. Luka has an injury, expected to miss at least a week before being reevaluated. Always unfortunate, kind of part of the season. This happens to pretty much every star. Jokic has been out for a little bit, although for not injury reasons, for personal reasons. So, it happens here and there. Really unfortunate. We'll see what the Mavs can do, because they're already in that Wolves-Kings territory where it's like we're kind of sitting at the edge where we don't want to be in that play-in spot. So, just keep your eyes on the Mavs for the next week and kind of see what they can do with no Luka. On a more positive note, though, before we get to the end of the video, which I will end on a negative note because I'm a frustrated Wolves fan, let's talk about the Orlando Magic, and more specifically Franz Wagner. Should be an all-star this year. Since Paulo has gone out, he has really stepped up, and it is really impressive from him. 10-7 for the Magic. Paulo went down, I think, in game 3 or 4, and the Magic were 3-0, 2-1, something like that, and then lost like 4 straight. They're like 2-5. It's like, that just sucks. They were having a good season. They were going to be a good team until Paulo got back. And then Franz Wagner took over. And for my money right now, he has booked himself a ticket so far into the All-Star game for however long he can keep this up until Paulo is back. 30-point games, clutch moments, the leader of the team, and, a game winner last night. Not a buzzer beater, but nevertheless a game winner. Crazy step back 3. I mean, it's just impressive stuff from Franz. And it completely nullified a great LeBron and Anthony Davis game. LeBron had a 30-point double-double. AD nearly had 40 again. And the Lakers are by no means the old Lakers where they're just a weak team. No, man, they were 10-4 going into that game. And the Magic beat them. The Magic got it done. So impressive win for them. Really excited for Franz Wagner. I've been waiting for this jump for him for the last few years. And it looks like it has finally come. So I'm really excited to see how he goes without Paulo for the rest of the month, or however long it is until Paulo's back. 8 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. And also excited to see how he looks once Paulo gets back too, because if Paulo's going to take up that gravity, Franz might be able to put up some even more impressive performances as well. One final thing to talk about, another tension thing. This one was on the court a little bit, but I feel like it might be translating to off the court. Definitely in the Wolves fan base is kind of in shambles on social media right now. Wolves lose again, make it 3 really bad losses on the season. I'd actually say 4. Shouldn't have lost to the Heat. Shouldn't have lost to the Blazers either time. And definitely should not have lost last night to the Toronto Raptors. I will say the Raptors had Scotty Barnes back, right? So this isn't the 3-12 Raptors that we saw a couple days ago. They are a little bit better, of course, with Scotty on the court. I would actually say quite a bit better. However, no excuse. You're supposed to be a contender in this Western Conference. And you continually lose these games you shouldn't lose. Naz Reid, I believe, did get hurt. I didn't have my eyes on the second half of this game because I was out watching a movie. But Naz Reid didn't play great, did get injured. Rob Dillingham played like 8-9 minutes before he turned an ankle. Wolves fans have been begging and pleading for Rob Dillingham. He was on the court for 9 minutes, I believe, minus 14. Worst on the team. So it's hard to make an argument for keeping him on the court if that's what's going to happen. And then the real tension comes in the fourth quarter. Julius Randle has the ball on the wing. Gobert's posting up with, I would say as well, a mismatch on Scotty Barnes. He's got like 4, 5, 6 inches of height on him. And he's calling for the ball. Randle doesn't give it to him, which has been a theme all season long. Randle has absolutely not fed Gobert for a lot of the season. Gobert gets mad and slowly walks his way out of the paint, just lazily, gets called for an offensive three, and immediately calls him out for it. Clap, like, come on, like, what are you, come on, you're better than that. Next possession down the court, Gobert gives, I believe, Scotty a shoulder to the face, picks up an off-the-ball foul, just a frustration foul. Wolves go on to lose off of a few different other scenarios, whatever. But on the final possession, Raptors at the free throw line, miss a free throw. Julius Randle's bringing the ball up the court with like 8-9 seconds to go. Wolves theoretically still have a chance, right? Hit a three, foul. Maybe they miss one of the free throws. Go ahead, another three. Julius Randle drives in, whips a pass at Rudy Gobert, who drops it, which has been a theme for the last couple years and really his whole career. Fumbles the pass. Julius Randle says nothing and just walks right off the court. A lot of tension with the team, and it's really nerve-wracking as a fan because this is this type of stuff that we had happen when we were a playing team, 7-8 seed. Actually, I think we were the 9 seed the year that this happened, where McDaniels punched the wall and Gobert punched Kyle Anderson, and it was a mess. Good thing is there's a lot of time left, but this is really, really bad. If you take away those 4 losses and turn them into wins, beat the Raptors, which they should have. Beat the Blazers. Actually, we'll say 3. We'll say they win 3 of those 4 games instead of all 4. They should have beat the Blazers, definitely one of those games, specifically the one on the Wednesday. They definitely should have beat the Raptors last night, and they definitely should have beat the Heat. You take those 3 wins and take away those 3 losses, this team is 11-4 and currently sitting at the 3 seed in the Western Conference right now. But yet, here they are sitting at 8-7 at the 10 seed, half a game out of the play-in entirely. It's really disappointing. It's really frustrating. I'll talk about them more if they continue to struggle and just be a mediocre team. But I'm hoping the next time I talk to you guys about the Wolves in depth, it'll be on a more positive note. And that wraps out the episode. A lot of frustration, I think, out by me there with the Sixers and the Wolves. Very, very frustrating. 2 teams that I do want to see succeed, specifically the Wolves. I am a fan of them. And just not seeing the results that I would hope to see. But thank you so much for watching or listening if you did make it all the way to the end. I really, really do appreciate it. If you're watching over on YouTube, all episodes are available over on Spotify. Look up Around the World. Look up Wordy Boss 30. You will find me. And if you're listening over on Spotify, be sure to check out the YouTube, Wordy Boss 30, Around the World. You will find me there as well. All links can be found in the description, both on YouTube and on Spotify as well, if you are looking to go a little bit of a quicker route. I'll be back on Monday for another episode of Around the World and hopefully some more positive notes as we continue to move on throughout this NBA season.